Good evening, my dear children. Hope you all are fine by God's grace. Today I am going to discuss about the tetralogy of Fallot, another congenital condition, and this is the remaining portions that we are discussed in the congenital heart disorders. So, first is tetralogy of Fallot. So, by the name itself, the tetralogy of Fallot is a syndrome. It consists of four conditions, that is ventricular septal defect, pulmonic stenosis, overriding of aorta, and right ventricular hypertrophy. So, it is a complex condition of several congenital defects that occur due to the abnormal development of the fetal heart during the first 8 weeks of pregnancy. The problems are ventricular septal defect, pulmonic stenosis, and overriding of aorta. Actually we have already discussed the ventricular septal defect and pulmonic stenosis, isn't it? Then overriding of aorta, the third condition. Overriding of aorta means a common aorta is formed in between the junction of the right and left ventricle. Actually there is not a connection between the right and left ventricle, but here the child is having a ventricular septal defect, and above that ventricular septal defect a common aorta is formed. As a result, the deoxygenated blood in the right ventricle it will pass to the aorta instead of passing through the pulmonary artery for purification to the lungs. That means actually the deoxygenated blood in the right ventricle is entering the pulmonary artery, and it is reaching the lungs for purification. But here the deoxygenated blood in the right ventricle is directly entering into the aorta because of the common connection, and hence the after effect is that the mixing of the deoxygenated and oxygenated blood is happening here, and finally the child will go for cyanosis. Then the fourth condition is right ventricular hypertrophy. So what are the effects of tetralogy of Fallot? If the right ventricle obstruction is severe, or if the pressure in the lungs is high, then a large amount of oxygen, that is blue blood or impure blood, large amount of oxygen poor or deoxygenated blood or blue blood passes through the ventricular septal defect and mixes with the oxygen rich blood in the left ventricle, and it is pumped to the body, and it will cause cyanosis. Then the more blood that goes through the ventricular septal defect, the less blood that goes through the pulmonary artery to the lungs. It is you have already known, if more blood is bypassing to the aorta, then bypassing to the left ventricle, then less blood will be going to the lungs for purification through pulmonary artery. So decreased oxygenated blood to the left side of the heart is received because of the less blood supply to the less return of blood to the lungs. So nearly all the blood in the left ventricle is oxygen poor, and this is an emergency situation as the body will not have enough oxygen to meet its needs. Then clinical manifestation. The clinical manifestation in infants are acute cyanosis at birth, mild cyanosis that progresses over the first year of life as pulmonary stenosis worsens, then systolic murmur. Then there may be acute episodes of cyanosis and hypoxia called blue spells and dead spells. Then anoxic spells occur when the infant oxygen demand exceeds blood supply, usually during the crying or after feeding. Then children are at risk for emboli, seizures, and loss of consciousness or sudden death. Then in children, increased cyanosis, irritability, clubbing of fingers, syncope. Syncope means loss of consciousness. Then squatting position, they will attain the squatting position. They are attaining squatting. The children with tetralogy of Fallot is attaining squatting position. This is one of the main give reason question. They are attaining squatting position because the squatting position will relieve them. They have severe respiratory distress. So this respiratory distress is relieving by attaining the squatting position. That means if they are attaining the squatting position, there will be increased blood flow to the lungs, and hence it will cause the oxygenation of the blood. So it is a body's mechanism to improve the blood supply to the lungs. So the children will attain a squatting position if they have tetralogy of Fallot. Then tachycardia, poor growth and development, then murmur, tachypnea, then hypoxic spells. Hypoxic spells means it is characterized by a paroxysm of hyperpnea. That is, paroxysm means a sudden intermittent attack or severing of the condition. That means there will be paroxysm of hyperpnea. Hyperpnea means rapid and deep respiration. Then irritability and prolonged crying, increasing cyanosis and decreasing intensity of the heart murmur. Then hypoxic spells occurs in infants with a peak instance during between 2 and 4 months of age. Then these spells occur during in the morning after crying, feeding or defecation. Then a severe spell may lead to limbness. Limbness means that means unsteady gait. Then convulsion, cerebrovascular accident or even death. You can see the pictures of death spell and blue spell. Then management in death spell or blue spell. First we can give Nietzsche's position. We are providing Nietzsche's position because this Nietzsche's position will also increase the blood flow to the lungs by if we are providing Nietzsche's position to the child, it will help the child to expand the capacity of the lungs. As a result, there will be increased blood flow to the lungs. So we are providing Nietzsche's position, then providing oxygen supply, then morphine, there is 0.1 to 0.2 mg per kg, then sodium bicarbonate 7.5% solution. Given as slow IV, then other IV fluids. Then prevention, for the prevention of death spell we can give propranolol. Then management, in medical management, educate the parents to recognize the spell and know what to do. Then oral propranolol therapy 0.5 to 1.5 mg per kg every 6 hours is occasionally used to prevent the hypoxic spell while waiting for an optimal time for corrective surgery. Then balloon dilation of the right ventricular outflow tract and pulmonary valve, it is not widely practiced. Then maintenance of good dental hygiene and practice of antibiotic prophylaxis against infective endocarditis. Then a relative iron deficiency state should be detected and treated. Then surgical, first is palliative shunt procedures. It is classic Blalock Taussig shunt. It is the most important and most commonest surgery that is practicing in tetralogy of Fallot. That is here there is, that means in Blalock Taussig shunt, here we are anastomosing. We are performing an anastomosis between the subclavian artery and the ipsilateral pulmonary artery. Okay, subclavian artery and the ipsilateral means the same side. Okay, if we are choosing the right subclavian artery, then we are choosing the same, that is already we have two pulmonary arteries. So if we are choosing the right subclavian artery, then we are choosing the right pulmonary subclavian artery. Okay, that means we are anastomosing the subclavian artery with the pulmonary artery in this procedure. So ipsilateral side, that means if we are choosing the right subclavian artery, we are choosing the right pulmonary artery. If we are choosing the left subclavian artery, then we are choosing the left pulmonary artery. And it is usually performed for infants older than 3 months because the shunt is often thrombosed in younger infants with smaller arteries. Okay, because in younger infants the size of the artery is small, so it is advised to do in the children above 3 months of age. Blalock Taussig shunt. Then modified Blalock Taussig shunt. So here we are shunting, the shunt is placed between the subclavian artery and the ipsilateral pulmonary artery. This is the most popular procedure for any age. Here in modified Blalock Taussig shunt, you may feel that what is the difference between classic Blalock Taussig shunt and modified Blalock Taussig shunt. In classic Blalock Taussig shunt, we are directly anastomosing the subclavian artery to the pulmonary artery, but in modified Blalock Taussig shunt we are anastomosing an extra, that is we are transplanting an extra vessel or extra shunt or extra, that means from the body itself we are taking another segment of an artery, and we are anastomosing it between the subclavian artery and the pulmonary artery. And it is doing for children younger than 3 months of age. That is a advantage. That means I have already told you that the classical Blalock Taussig shunt can be performed in children above the 3 months of age, but the modified Blalock Taussig shunt can be done in younger children also. Then the Watterson shunt. Watterson shunt, that is we are doing the anastomosis between the ascending aorta and the right pulmonary artery. That means here we are trying to create a new aorta. But this Watterson shunt is no longer performed because of the surgical complication. Then Port's operation. Port's operation means anastomosis between the descending aorta and the left pulmonary artery. Okay, so there are two operations: Watterson shunt and Port's operation. Watterson means anastomosis between ascending aorta and right pulmonary artery. Then Port's operation is opposite. That means anastomosis between the descending aorta and left pulmonary artery. But both these procedures are not performing nowadays because of its complications. Then complete repair surgery, usually done in the first year of life. Total repair of the defect is carried out under cardiopulmonary bypass (CPB) approach. That means cardiopulmonary bypass approach, open heart. So the procedure includes partial closure of the ventricular septal defect, preferably through a transatrial and transpulmonary artery approach. Resection of the infundibular stenosis with pericardial dacron. What is infundibulum? Infundibulum means it is a place where there is pulmonary veins are coming and attaching to the left ventricle. Okay, so here there is a protrusion. You can see a protrusion in the anatomical shape of the heart. So that protruded region is infundibulum. Okay, so in infundibular stenosis with pericardial dacron patch to enlarge the right ventricular outflow tract. Then procedures requires a median sternotomy and use of cardiopulmonary bypass. So these are all about the tetralogy of Fallot. The next condition is transposition of great arteries or vessels. So here transposition in the as the name as indicating the name, the aorta is connected to the right ventricle. Aorta is connected to the right ventricle instead of left ventricle. Usually the aorta is connected to the left ventricle, isn't it? But here the aorta is connected to the right ventricle and the pulmonary artery is connected to the left ventricle, and there is no communication between the systemic and pulmonary circulation. Okay, that is the entire change in circulation is happening in this condition. Okay, so the oxygen poor blood returns to the right atrium from the body and passes through the right atrium to the right ventricle and into the misconnected aorta back to the body. Okay, so then what is the difference? No, here the child is not at all getting an oxygenated blood. Okay, that means the oxygen poor blood from different parts of the body is carried by the superior and inferior vena cava to the right atrium. From the right atrium it is passing through the right ventricle. From the right ventricle it is passing, this blood is passing through the misconnected aorta and is carried to the body, to the different parts of the body without any purification, because the aorta is misconnected to the right ventricle. Then the oxygen rich blood returns into the left atrium from the lungs and passes through the left atrium and left ventricle into the misconnected pulmonary artery, and again this oxygenated blood is going back to the lungs. So what is the use of oxygenated blood? This oxygenated blood is not at all utilizing by the child. So other heart defects are also associated with the transposition of great arteries. Then ASD and VSD will be there, may be necessary in order for the infant to survive. That means in some cases this ASD and VSD, if the child along with the transposition of great arteries, there will be atrial septal defect and ventricular septal defect, but it is essential for the survival of the child, because the septal defects, if the septal defects are there, it will help the child for the mixing of the oxygenated and deoxygenated blood, and they will get some oxygen for the purpose of the metabolism of the body, and allowing the mixing of blood, providing at least a smaller amount of oxygen to the body. So clinical manifestations are cyanosis, rapid breathing, labored breathing, murmur, cool and clammy skin, symptoms of congestive heart failure, cardiomegaly. The diagnostic evaluation are history collection, physical examination, ECG, echocardiography, chest X-ray. In chest X-ray we can see X-shaped cardiac silhouette. What is silhouette? Silhouette means we can see the outline of the heart. That is, there is an outline of the heart in the mediastinum. That is, we can see the heart. There is a particular shape, but here the shape is abnormal. It will be enlarged. We can see a silhouette, X-shaped cardiac silhouette. Then management, in medical management, ABG and pH should be obtained and metabolic acidosis should be corrected. Then PG, that is prostaglandin. That is PG means prostaglandin E. Prostaglandin E infusion should be started to improve the arterial oxygen saturation by reopening the ductus. Then oxygen administration. Then Rashkin procedure, that means a balloon atrial septotomy may be performed to increase the mixing of blood by opening the atrial septum. We are reopening the septums and the ductus. Ductuses, that means there are two ductuses, ductus arteriosus and ductus venosus. So to facilitate the mixing of the blood, we are reopening the septum as well as the ductus. Then surgical management is arterial switch procedure, that is performed. It is performed in the first week of life, transecting the great arteries and anastomosing the main pulmonary artery to the proximal aorta. We are anastomosing the main pulmonary artery to the proximal aorta and anastomosing the ascending aorta to the proximal pulmonary artery. And the coronary arteries are switched from the proximal aorta to the proximal pulmonary artery to create a new aorta. We are creating a new aorta by connecting the proximal aorta to the proximal pulmonary artery. Then intra-aortic baffle repair or mustard procedure. Here an intra-aortic baffle means it is a that means we are restraining the flow, we are blocking the flow, we are keeping a baffle to block the blood flow that is it divert the venous blood to the mitral valve and pulmonary venous blood to the tricuspid valve using patient's atrial septum or a prosthetic valve. That means we are not allowing the blood to reach the ventricles. Okay, we are not allowing the blood to reach the ventricles. That means in the ventricle, the aorta and the pulmonary artery are misconnected, isn't it? So we are not allowing the blood to enter the ventricle. We are keeping a baffle at the valves that is connecting the atrium and the ventricle. So an intra-aortic baffle is created to divert the venous blood to the mitral valve and pulmonary venous blood to the tricuspid valve using patient's atrial septum or a prosthetic valve. Then Rastelli procedure. Another surgical management is Rastelli procedure. It is an operative choice in infants with transposition of gate arteries, VSD and severe pulmonic stenosis. If the child is having all the three conditions like transposition of gate arteries, ventricular septal defect and severe pulmonic stenosis. It involves closure of the ventricular septal defect with a baffle, directing the left ventricular blood through the VSD into the aorta. Then the pulmonary valve is then closed and a conduit is placed from the right ventricle to the pulmonary artery. Conduit means we are allowing, we are creating a channel to flow, to facilitate the flow of blood from the right ventricle to the pulmonary artery and creating a physiologically normal circulation. So this procedure requires multiple conduit replacement as a child grows. The conduit should be replaced intermittently. So these are all about transposition of gate arteries. Then another condition is total anomalous pulmonary venous return. So all four pulmonary veins, there are four pulmonary veins, it is two left pulmonary vein and two right pulmonary veins are there. There are totally four pulmonary veins. All the four pulmonary veins are malpositioned and make anomalous connection to the systemic venous circulation. Okay, actually the pulmonary veins have no connection to the systemic venous circulation. So here all the four pulmonary veins are malpositions and are, that is in the name, the total anomalous pulmonary venous return. Okay, so it is malposition and make anomalous connection to the systemic venous circulation. There is no direct communication between the pulmonary veins and the left atrium. Actually the pulmonary vein should reach the left atrium, but there is no connection between the pulmonary veins and the left atrium. It is drained anomalously into the systemic tributaries or into the right atrium. Okay, actually this pulmonary vein is not attaching to the left atrium, it is directly attaching to the right atrium through the tributaries. So there are four types of total anomalous pulmonary venous return. First is supracardiac, then cardiac, infracardiac and mixed type. First is supracardiac. Supracardiac is 50%, there are 50% cases of supracardiac. That is, it is attached above this pulmonary veins are attached above the diaphragm. Pulmonary venous sinus drains into the superior vena cava. Okay, these pulmonary veins are directly getting connected to the superior vena cava, that is supracardiac. Then cardiac, that is the pulmonary veins are directly attaching to the heart. Pulmonary sinus drains into the coronary sinus. Okay, then infracardiac, that is 20% of cases are infracardiac. Here the pulmonary veins are getting attached below the diaphragm to the pulmonary vein and it is drained to the portal vein, ductus venosus, hepatic vein and inferior vena cava. Okay, that is infracardiac. Then mixed type means combination of other types, that is accounts of about 10%. Clinical manifestation, cyanosis, right ventricular heave. Heave means that is enlargement or lifting of the heart. Heart will lift up. We can feel the heart when we are keeping our hand on the pericardium. Pericardium means that is chest cavity, above the chest cavity. Then other manifestations are loud sound, that is cyanosis, right ventricular heave. Then loud S3. S3 can be here louder. Then fixed split S3. Then S3 gallop. Gallop means S3 gallop means the third heart sound is S3 gallop. Then systolic ejection murmur at left upper sternal border. Then cardiomegaly, tachypnea, dyspnea. Then snowman sign or cottage love sign. Where we are taking the X-ray, we can see the shape of a snowman. Have you seen snowman? Snowman, it is a snowy structure that is that we can see in the Arctic region. Okay, so tropical areas. So that is we can see the shape of a snowman in the chest. Then diagnostic evaluation, history collection, physical examination, X-ray chest. In X-ray chest we can see curly V lines. Then ECG, right axis, in ECG there will be right axis deviation, echocardiography. And management, in medical, intensive anticongestive measures, metabolic acidosis should be corrected. Then infants with severe pulmonary edema should be intubated and receive ventilator support. Then in some children with pulmonary hypertension, prostaglandin E can increase the systemic flow by keeping the ductus open. Then surgical management, so in supracardiac type, a large side-to-side anastomosis is made between the common pulmonary venous sinus and the left atrium. The ASD is closed with a cloth pouch. Then if the total pulmonary venous return is to the right atrium, then the atrial septum is excised and a patch is sewn in such a way that the pulmonary venous return is diverted to the left atrium. We are diverting this pulmonary venous flow to the left atrium, and the ASD may have to be enlarged. Then if the total anomalous pulmonary venous return to the coronary sinus, then an incision is made in the anterior wall of the coronary sinus to make a communication between the coronary sinus and the left atrium. Okay, we are on all the cases we are giving a connection to the left atrium. Then a single patch closes the original atrial septal defect. This results in the drainage of coronary sinus blood with low oxygen saturation into the lungs for saturation. Then infracardiac type. In infracardiac type, a large vertical anastomosis is made between the common pulmonary venous sinus and the left atrium. A common pulmonary vein which descends vertically to the abdominal cavity is ligated above the diaphragm. We are ligating. Ligating means we are stopping the. That means we are here we are ligating means we are creating a band. We are tying it. Okay. So these are all about the total anomalous pulmonary venous return. The next is coarctation of the aorta. Coarctation of aorta, it is a narrowing of the aorta and it can occur anywhere, but is most likely to happen in the segment just after the aortic arch. This narrowing restricts the amount of blood to the lower part of the body. So the lower part of the body is getting affected. It occurs in about 8 to 11% of children with congenital heart defects. The effects are the left ventricle has to work harder to try to move the blood through the narrowing of the aorta. That is, it results in left heart failure because of the more workload to the left ventricle. Then BP is higher above. That is, if you are checking the BP on the upper hemisphere of the body, the BP will be higher, and if you are checking the BP in the lower segment of the body, it will be less. So older children may have headaches from too much pressure in the vessels in the head, or cramps in the legs or abdomen from too little blood flow in that region. Then the walls of the arteries may become weakened by high pressure, spontaneous tears, then cause a stroke or uncontrollable bleeding. Then increased risk of bacterial endocarditis. Clinical manifestations are poor feeding, dyspnea, poor weight gain. Signs of acute circulatory shock may develop in the first 6 weeks of age. Then pain and may have varying degrees of respiratory distress, oliguria or anuria. Then severe acidemia, weak or thready peripheral pulses as a result of congestive heart failure. The diagnostic evaluation are history collection, physical examination, then ECG, X-ray and echo. Management, prostaglandin E1 infusion, anti-congestive measures, then balloon angioplasty. In surgical, the resection and end-to-end anastomosis, then subclavian flap aortoplasty, patch aortoplasty. So nursing management of children with congenital heart defects. That is the common nursing management in all the congenital heart defects. So relieving the respiratory distress, that is the first nursing management. Determine the degree of respiratory distress. Position the child at 45-degree angle to decrease the pressure of the viscera on the diaphragm and increase the lung volume. Then pin diapers loosely and provide loose fitting dresses. Feed slowly, then tilt infant's head slightly, then suction the nose and throat if unable to cough out the secretions, then provide oxygen therapy as needed, then encourage fluid intake, observe for test spells, obtain vital signs. The next management is for adequate nutrition. Feed in semi-erect position, provide small and frequent feedings, provide foods with high nutritional value, strict intake output chart should be maintained and daily weight check is much important. And the third management is to prevent infection, prevent exposure to communicable diseases, use up-to-date immunization, then hand washing practices, administration of prophylactic antibiotics, then check for the any signs of infective endocarditis. The next management is to improve the activity. For improving the activity, we should give uninterrupted rest or complete rest, avoid unnecessary activities, prevent excessive crying, and provide diversional activities and prevent constipation. So these are the management for a child with congenital heart disease. So by this we have completed our unit of cardiovascular disorders, and hope you all have understood the topic well. If you have any doubt, you can ask me personally or in the group. Thank you so much.